Alright, so the following are directions for the activity that we're going to be doing. The goal of this activity is to sort of see how populations change over time. In this case, we'll be focusing on deer and wolves. So, when we're ready, we'll go out to the quad and we'll make two parallel lines on the ground about 10 to 20 yards apart. You will count off in fours, and the ones will become the deer and line up with their backs to the other students. The other students will become habitat that the deer need to survive: food, water, and shelter. And they will line up on the other line with their backs to the deer. So have two parallel lines with your backs facing each other. The deer will need to find food, water, and shelter in order to survive in their environment. If they do not, they will die. When the deer is looking for food, they should clamp their hands over their stomach, like Santa Claus here. If the deer is looking for water, they should cover their hands over their ears, like this child is doing right here. And when the deer needs shelter, they should raise their hands above their head, like this guy's doing right here. The deer can choose from any one of these three needs for each round of the activity. Now, when we do a round of the activity, you cannot change what you're looking for during the round. You can only change what you're looking for at the beginning of each round. So the other students are the food, water, and shelter. So here we have the field. On one side we have the deer, and the other side we have the habitat requirements. So the other students on the side that represent the habitat, they are food, water, or shelter. They'll get to choose what they want to be at the beginning of the round, and they show their choice the same way the deer have. These students cannot change what they're doing during a round, and they can only change at the beginning of each round. I'll begin the first round by asking students to make their signs over their heads. So the deer will make their signs over their heads, and then the habitat will make their signs over their head. And then the deer have to find the habitat type, the habitat requirement that they need by running over to that habitat requirement and tagging that habitat. So if I'm a deer, and once I say go, you'll run over and you'll come and you'll pick up this food, and only one deer per habitat type. And if they make it across and get to their habitat requirement, that the deer survives, not only survives, but reproduces for another year. So that food will go away, and that food will turn into a deer. So after the round is over, the original deer and the newly formed deer will move to the other side. In this case, the water found another water. The water will turn into will be used up, turn into a deer, and at the beginning of the next round, we'll come over here. And then, the shelter ran over here and didn't find anything. If the shelter didn't find if the deer that needed shelter does not find its habitat requirement, it dies. And so the next round it'll stay over here and it'll turn into a habitat requirement. Ta-da. And we'll begin the round over again. When we begin the round over again, the deer can choose another resource they attempt to find. So even though these two started off, even though this one started off as food, for the next round it could choose to be shelter or water. If the deer finds what it's looking for, it takes that habitat back to the deer side. If the deer does not find what it's looking for, it dies, decomposes, and turns into habitat. Now, eventually, we will introduce a wolf into the population. And the wolf, what the wolf can do is, as the deer are running across the field to try to get to their habitat, the wolf can tag the deer. If the wolf tags the deer, well, then the wolf has eaten, it can survive, and it reproduces the next year, and the deer goes away, deleted, and a new wolf is made and can hang out here in the center. Alright, So the same rules apply. If this shelter makes it all the way across without getting tagged by a wolf, well, then the shelter that it went to turns into a deer. And then for the next round, we'll move back over here. If this food is running across here, but gets tagged by the wolf, it'll turn into a wolf, and the deer will go away. All right. You will be responsible for coming up with a data table to record this information. Each round will represent a season, and then you will have to create a graph that shows the changes in the amount of habitat over time and the changes in the amount of deer over time. And once the wolves are introduced, you'll have to show a graph showing the changes in the amount of deer and the amount of wolves over time.